Welcome to the chosen one. The streets do not compose history books, but they do save receipts. Every street, every corner, and every whispered discussion has a record of who's genuine and who's not. And here's a fact. Most people disregard reputations on the street. Travel quicker than Wi-Fi. Before your own family knew who you were, the streets had your narrative on repeat. They know the truth teller who never faltered under pressure. They recognize the guardian who intervened while everyone else turned away. And they know who refused to fold, no matter how big the load. But here's a twist. The streets do not promote just anyone. You cannot pay for this recognition. You cannot fake it with Instagram filters, nor can you swindle your way into it. The streets only respect what cannot be bent. And it is you. Don't get it twisted. This is not to say that everyone loves you. Far from it. Some are shaken. Some are salty. Some are secretly hoping you would simply disappear. However, even your foes have to give you a moniker in private chats. Ignoring you became difficult. You see, that is how respect works here. They may not applaud you in front, but behind closed doors, they play your survival tale like a mixtape they can't confess they like. And let's be honest, isn't it a little funny? The same folks who previously questioned you are now behaving as if they always knew you were capable. Like, really? Where was your enthusiasm when you were fighting wars that no one wanted to touch? But, hey, that's the point of being the truth teller and guardian. You do not need applause to legitimize it. The streets have already imprinted it. So, now, let's talk about why your name seems different now. Why have whispers turned into echoes? Why don't the streets simply recognize you? They've recorded you in their unwritten history. Number one, the streets do not respect titles. They value evidence. The streets don't show respect simply because you ask for it. They're not impressed by big voices, phony ruggedness, or flashy titles. They see evidence every day, even when no one is applauding. When life becomes heavy, everything is meant to tear you down. That's where respect begins, and that's where you excelled. You never had to beg someone to see you. You didn't publish a highlight reel to show them how powerful you were. You did not stage an act to seem indestructible. You just existed, and your existence became incontrovertible proof. The streets kept a watchful watch. They saw when people turned against you and expected you to fall. They witnessed when you were left with nothing but your own backbone to rely on. They saw traps set out like bait, waiting for you to stumble and collapse under strain. But you didn't. You remained faithful, even when treachery was the only item offered on the menu. You didn't crack when the rumors circulated. You didn't change things simply because it would have been easy. That is the kind of evidence that cannot be faked. And evidence distinguishes those who speak from those who are. Anyone might profess to be reliable, but the streets put everyone to the test. They don't mind how confident you sound. They'll set fire to your foundation to check whether it's constructed of wood or metal. And each time you were tried, you showed what you were really made of. That's why your name began to pass silently from mouth to mouth. Not because you sought respect, but because you earned it by scars, tenacity, and perseverance. The irony is that those who strive hardest to undermine you really strengthen your reputation. Every unsuccessful setup, gossip, and betrayal became part of your resume. That's why your tales spread quicker than falsehoods ever could. In a world full of individuals who fold for attention, money, or just to belong, you stood there and demonstrated you couldn't be bent. That is why the street knows who you are now. Not as a character, a myth, or as someone with a big tongue and no backbone, but as the truth teller, the defender, and the one who refuses to give up. That's the type of evidence that sticks with you long after the ruckus has subsided. Number two, fear and reverence originated in the same place. Your constancy, dread, and respect are not motivated by the same reasons that others believe. Most people believe that fear derives from intimidation, whereas respect comes from adoration. But in truth, both stem from consistency. See, the streets do not fear you because you throw your weight about or put on a rough persona. They fear you because they can't understand how you manage to remain unchanged in a world where everyone bends to survive. That unwavering steadiness is what distinguishes you. Consider what the streets often see. People who promise allegiance one day and then change sides the next. People who preach about morality until money appears. People who profess to be solid until a little pressure breaks them open. That is the norm. Folding, switching, and betraying. So when someone like you turns up and lives by beliefs that don't change with the wind, people are shaken. It makes them face their own lack of spine. And that encounter might result in dread or respect, but it never leaves people indifferent. The admiration comes from people who secretly wish they had your power. They respect how you remained standing while everything around you was pushing you down. They admire how you didn't sell your soul to get by. They see in you a standard that demonstrates it is possible to thrive without selling out. They may not publicly applaud you, but they know you're special. The dread, however, comes from those who profit from deception, manipulation, and weakness. Your existence scares them because it demonstrates that their authority is based on fragile footing. They cannot purchase you. They cannot bribe you. They can't get you to fold. That makes you a threat to their system because your consistency exposes their deception, and what people cannot control, they dread. It is the combination of terror and respect that cements your position. You're not simply another name floating around the rumor mill. You are the one who did not bend, and it makes you memorable. People may never confess it aloud, but they compare themselves to you. They understand you established a benchmark that they could not reach. That is why the streets cannot ignore you, because your perseverance made them realize what true strength looks like. Number 3, you became the mirror. They are unable to flee. You've become a mirror that no one can escape from, and it is what worries them the most. It's not like you went out of your way to expose someone. It's that your sheer being does this without you uttering a word. The streets are packed with individuals appearing to be substantial, pretending to be courageous, pretending to follow codes that they breach every day when they gaze at you. They are forced to face the disparity between what they profess to be and who they really are. That reflection makes people uncomfortable because it removes their justifications. Your strength emphasizes their vulnerability. Your honesty amplifies their falsehoods in their own ears. Your failure to fold makes them think of all the times they did. And when individuals see themselves in the mirror, they respond differently. Some people get furious with you not because you hurt them, but because you remind them of the reality they've been trying to hide. Others secretly admire you because they wish they had the fortitude to live without compromise. Nobody can look at you and not feel something. That is why your name continues showing up, even when you are not present. It's not rumors. It's a response to the fact that you unintentionally upset others. You hold a standard that causes people to reconsider their own decisions. And not everyone appreciates what they see when they compare themselves to you. Some may attempt to belittle you, expecting that by discrediting your name, they will not feel as exposed. Others will want to attach themselves to you, expecting that your strength will compensate for their weakness. But no matter what role they play, they cannot avoid the mirror you present. The fact is that your life has become a measuring stick without your knowledge or consent. You became the silent test for genuineness. If someone professes to be genuine, they are immediately contrasted to you. When someone believes they are unbreakable, others wonder whether they could have dealt with what you went through. That mirror effect is strong, which is why your presence bears weight. You don't need to yell it. You don't need to explain anything. Just be yourself. You expose who everyone else really is. That's why the streets recognize you. They cannot stop seeing themselves in you. Number 4, the guardian position was not picked. It was forced. You never set out to be a guardian. It was not a childhood dream. And there was no title. You went in quest of life and were forced to confront it. You continued watching individuals being taken advantage of, deceived, or chewed up by predators posing as friends, leaders, or even family members. And something in. You couldn't just sit back and watch things happen. You learned that quiet is consent and passivity is permission. So, whether you liked it or not, you were the one who stepped in while everyone else remained silent. That's why the streets nicknamed you Protector, not because you wear a badge of authority, but because you became a line that no one could pass without paying a fee. You did not allow anyone get away with treating the weak as throwaway items. You weren't afraid to say no when others were reluctant to speak up, which set you apart in circumstances where most people just care about themselves. You bore a duty greater than yourself. Ironically, being a guardian frequently costs more than anybody realizes. You stood up for those who couldn't always return the favor. You jeopardized your own peace and safety to save others from being ruined. You bore burdens that were not yours because you couldn't bear witnessing injustice devour people whole. It was not about becoming a hero. It was about being unable to tolerate cowardice. And that is what makes it so strong. However, this is the portion that most people do not comprehend. Protectors are not born to be comfortable. They are born out of need. The streets remember you as a guardian because you drew boundaries when no one else dared. They saw that you did not fold when predators assumed they had free run. Your protection was more than simply physical. It was spiritual, philosophical, and moral. You become evidence that there are still individuals who would not tolerate evil. Your role has now been marked. Even those who despise you quietly understand that there are limitations. They can't go around you. It's not because you sought authority. It's because life turned you into a wall that injustice continues to smash against. You didn't want to be a guardian, but it became part of who you are. And the streets will never forget this. Number 5, people trust you since you do not gain from lying. People trust you because there is no incentive for you to lie. That distinguishes you from everyone else who speaks their mind. Most individuals fabricate tales to obtain money, prestige, attention, or to bring down others in order to make themselves seem larger. But when you talk, there is no goal behind it. You're not looking for clout. You're not hunting for accolades or feeding off rumor. You speak because the truth is too weighty to be concealed. That is what makes your voice sound distinct. The truth speaker is feared not for their loudness, but for the fact that their remarks are free of bias. You do not have to oversell or dress it up. You expose it, and people know it's true because there's nothing to gain from it. Most people underestimate that power. They may dismiss falsehoods and rumors, but when someone without a reason begins talking, the streets listen. Even those who despise you and wish you would remain quiet cannot ignore you. They understand that you are not speaking to further your career. You're speaking because being silent would also make you feel bad. And this is what makes you dangerous. You don't mind standing alone if it means standing out for the truth. You don't mind losing people's position or prospects as long as you don't compromise your own integrity. Independence makes you untouchable in ways that no amount of money or power can. What truly bothers people is how your remarks cling. They reverberate long after you say them, since everyone understands there is no hidden catch. You aren't stating it now merely to alter your tale later. You do not change your story based on who is in the room. And it is why people speak about you, even when you are not present. They may despise your assertiveness. They may attempt to discredit you, but your words create a seed that they cannot remove. That is the mark of a genuine truth-teller. You don't talk because it is handy. You talk because it is required. And that requirement compels people to pay attention, whether they cheer for you or trash your name. They trust you because, in a world full of profit-driven falsehoods, you are the only one with nothing to gain and everything to stand for. 6th, the street exam. Everyone. You're one of the few that died. They pushed you through everything they could think of, yet you remained upright. The streets do not honor tales or promises made in exchange for perseverance. Rumors were spread to see how you would respond. Setups were designed to test your willingness to bend. Fake alliances were set up to see whether you'd sell out for survival. Every trap that was placed was designed to break you. And every time it didn't, your reputation got stronger without you having to yell. Tests are not nice. They are messy, intimate, and sometimes embarrassing. People attempted to make you seem weak in public in order to push you to make decisions that contradicted your ideals. Make your name associated with failure or shame. Those who run the streets know how to put pressure on someone to fold, appeal to fear, threaten what they cherish, or offer them an easy exit at the expense of everything important to them. Most people will choose the easy way out since survival is a top priority. You did not. You handled the strain without selling the truth. That is what makes you distinct. Survival here isn't about luck. It takes discipline, timing, and a cold resolve to face the consequences if you refuse to go along. People observed and recalculated who you were. Those who wanted you gone discovered that their approaches were no longer effective. Those who relied on falsehoods learned their tool set was useless against someone who refused to bend your will when chaos became the new proof. People value the sort that can be verified and is difficult to get. The streets reward people who pass visual exams because they display personality while everything else is staged. Anyone may appear bold for a show. When no one is looking and the stakes are high, few people can maintain their composure. Your constancy throughout difficult times earned you a reputation that rumors could not match. Failures and setups become examples rather than stains. The betrayals that were designed to destroy you become causes for others to trust your name. Now that you've crossed the gauntlet, your presence has changed. How people act. They balance their actions differently because they know the ground you're walking on is solid. You do not need to prove yourself anymore. Your survival accomplished that. That is why the streets recognize you, not by what you say, but by what you have faced and overcome. That perseverance was the money that made you unique. And uniqueness draws attention and respect in settings where trust is often purchased and sold. Number 7. You made cowards uncomfortable just by being. Your existence became a subtle indictment. This is what makes cowards squirm. They are not responding to a single speech or bold action. They're responding to the consistent tempo of your life, how you show up, how you manage pressure, and how you maintain your promise when everything else is crumbling. That stability reveals a fact that most individuals try hard to disguise. They live by bending, looking the other way, and prioritizing convenience over boldness. When you remain still, their coping techniques become obvious, which causes pain. Cowards base their existence on plausible deniability, fast escapes, and alliances that change with the wind. These strategies rely on fog and noise. You eliminate both. Your calm demeanor clears the fog and converts noise to proof. People who used camouflage to survive are now exposed. They get uneasy since each encounter with you reflects their shortcuts and half-truths. That anxiousness manifests as wrath, gossip, passive hostility, or unexpected spurts of defensiveness. Those emotions are a map of who dreaded being exposed for who they really were. Making cowards uncomfortable is not attractive. It means you manage minor assaults, subtle undermining, and silent freezes with the same calm determination you use in larger conflicts. It implies you don't respond for every insult, since doing so would reveal your vulnerability and provide them with the joy they want. Instead, you demonstrate that their approaches do not transform you. The unwillingness to be lured tips the balance. People realize you won't provide the drama. They need to feel strong. That fact unsettles them even more since it takes away their power. Your presence also challenges preconceived notions about cooperation, such as the need for compromise. They now understand that there are limits that will not be violated. That understanding alters conduct. Stop being an opportunist. Manipulators begin to second-guess their actions. And fair-minded folks may breathe better knowing that someone has finally held a line. Your consistency simultaneously serves as a deterrent and a benchmark. In the end, making cowards uncomfortable is a result of honesty, not a goal. It is the result of refusing to take shortcuts, betray others, and tell simple lies. People who live on uncertainty are concerned because your steadiness contradicts their system. Their anxiety demonstrates that you matter in ways they cannot reproduce. That soreness is a silent win, proving that your very existence changes the game and pushes everyone to confront the kind of person you are. Number 8. They attempted to remove you, but the street has archived you. They attempted to eliminate you, and each effort merely amplified your tale. Smear efforts were initiated. Lies were given to loudmouths. People were encouraged to look the other way. Isolation was the technique cut. You will be cut off from allies, platforms, and become invisible. That was the plan. Bury your name deeply enough that the next flood will wash it away. Instead, each assault established a record. When someone told a falsehood, the streets contrasted it to what really occurred. When alliances shifted, false witnesses recalled who remained steady and who moved. People who attempted to change your tale were unaware that the neighborhood retains receipts, little details, quiet favors, and backroom facts that do not disappear with a trending post or a manufactured apology. These small details accumulated like pennies in a jar, and over time, they accumulated into evidence. Isolation was intended to be the fatal blow, but it really sharpened you. Without the cacophony, your actions become more evident. Instead of drowning in the slander, you concentrated on living in a manner that would withstand talk. Consistent, responsible, and true. The street began to notice the trend. Every effort to silence you left behind fingerprints. Every rumor that came apart boosted your credibility rather than detracted from it. People who had before been unclear started to recognize what was constant and what was fake. And they started to record both your reality and their own discussions. There is a horrible irony about it. People who wished to remove your name worked harder to make it permanent. Their lifestyles piqued people's interest. People were cautious after their betrayals. Their desperation made them careless. The streets do not respect fabricated reputations. They respect earned histories. And your past was not limited to surviving the assaults. It was the way you treated others, the favors you never publicized, and the debts. You softly settled the times you arrived when no one else did. Those things do not vanish because someone with a loud voice attempts to drown them out. They are spoken about in the fringes. In the late night, check to see who truly aided who. Your tale is now stored in the subterranean archives. It isn't on a glossy billboard or in a faultless press release. It's in the memories of those who saw you behave when it mattered. This is the kind of record that trendy falsehoods cannot erase. Attempts to bury you just dug deeper into the concrete where you were already standing. And your name is now part of the foundation. Number 9. You redefined power as self-control, not anarchy. You altered the notion of strength in a place that used to celebrate loudness and anger. People assessed authority based on who could yell the loudest, cause the most uproar, or intimidate others into submission. It used to be the scoreboard. You rewrote the rules by demonstrating that the true advantage is the opposite: calm, discipline, and the capacity to pick your movements rather than respond to every provocation. Self-control is subtle, but strategic. It is the power that refuses to be baited, that prioritizes long-term benefit above short-term gains, and that transforms emotional outbursts into predictable, managed consequences. When everyone else was proving themselves via drama, you showed yourself by not participating. That did not make you weak. It made you exact. Restraint meant you avoided errors others created in the heat of the moment. It meant you didn't compromise your reputation for a quick triumph or give your enemy ammo by losing your cool. People may have derided your quiet at first, but they soon learned to interpret it as a signal. When you move, it's deliberate. And while you remain silent, you are considering the appropriate reaction. That level of control causes others to approach you differently because it eliminates the chance that they rely on to retain power. Control also requires responsibility. When you don't give in to theatrics, people can no longer hide behind noise. They must confront the reality of who they are and what they've done. That is scary for people who use turmoil to hide guilt, incompetence, or greed. Your discipline reveals their tactics without having to call them out in a spectacular manner. It's clean and effective. People bow not because they are afraid of physical force, but because they know you will not be agitated into making errors that they may abuse. There is another layer of control that develops consistency. When your actions are measured, people may expect that you will not compromise on essential ideas, even if you are patient with techniques. Patience becomes a weapon, one who wears down flamboyant competitors who are out of steam. It compels the environment to adapt to you rather than you adjusting to its disarray. This eventually reverses social economies. Those who earlier exchanged integrity for loudness are now marginalized as your consistent approach becomes the norm. Others aspire or despise. In short, you instilled a new level of dread and respect on the streets. Chaos might be frightening, but self-control prevails. It's less boisterous, far less spectacular, and enormously more hazardous for anybody who built their authority on surprise. That's why when you go into a room today, people don't simply notice you changing the norms of interaction without saying anything. Number 10. Even opponents recognize you behind closed doors. Even your adversaries understand the truth. When no one is watching, they publicly trash your reputation, propagate falsehoods, and attempt to portray you as weak. They treat you like you're simply another person to discard. But behind closed doors, the narrative shifts. In private, They reveal things they would never say in public. You never bent. You never sacrificed your ideals. And you overcame problems. They believed it would shatter anybody. That dichotomy, the public assault against the private appreciation, is one of the most obvious indicators of your influence. This is the kind of recognition that cannot be faked or purchased. Titles, prizes, and loud acclaim do not carry the same weight as quiet acknowledgement from people who would normally work against you. If someone who has every reason to despise you nevertheless admires your tenacity, it demonstrates that what you stand for is unquestionable. Your honesty becomes a power that can overcome views, gossip, and jealousy. Even if they despise you, they will never be able to forget that you stood firm when everyone else expected you to give up. It's also a strategic win when foes discover your value in secret. They are required to account for it in every action they do. Their machinations are moderated, their falsehoods are calibrated, and their alliances fluctuate because they have to account for your consistency. That hidden respect alters the dynamics of power without your having to express it. It's subtle, but irrevocable. The reality is, this kind of recognition is considerably more significant than any public praise. It indicates that your reputation has reached a point where even those who oppose you cannot use it. They understand that your story, your strength, and your constancy are facts, not tales that they can influence. Your presence on the streets, in your neighborhood, and in the circles where power is evaluated becomes impenetrable because even your detractors acknowledge it privately. This is why adversaries may say anything they want, yet your influence stays intact. You do not need them to publicly validate you. Their private appreciation demonstrates that your sincerity and resilience are everlasting. When even your opponents acknowledge your power behind closed doors, you've already achieved a stature that no award title or social media clout could ever provide. You exist as a baseline, a standard that cannot be ignored or rejected, and that is a triumph that the people will never forget. Number the streets value survival above corruption. Surviving is one thing. Surviving without making compromises is quite another. That is what makes you distinct. The streets are filled with individuals who survived life, but virtually everyone paid a price. They did not have to. Their values, integrity, connections, and sense of self. They broke rules, crossed borders, and abandoned beliefs in order to survive another day. You did not. You experienced the same pressures, challenges, and temptations. But you did not give up your soul to keep afloat. That is why your name is important. It denotes dignified survival. And dignity is something that cannot be faked. The distinction is obvious to anybody paying attention. People observe who falters under pressure and who remains steadfast. They observe who compromises for favors and who refuses to compromise even if it costs them. Your steadfastness and loyalty even when life was on the line. Money, influence, and loudness cannot buy you respect. Respect like that is not taken lightly. It's earned at times when any choice might have destroyed you. You made those choices while remaining true to your principles. There is also an unsaid impact associated with being clean. Those around you recognize that you can persevere while remaining true to your values. That alone changes dynamics. Opportunists who take shortcuts suddenly realize they're up against someone who doesn't cut corners. Liars and manipulators perceive a standard that they cannot achieve. The streets notice, and your reputation develops softly but steadily. It isn't glamorous, but it is lasting. What makes this even more unique is that thriving without corruption entails more than simply avoiding compromise. It's about being present under pressure. It's about showing up, making tough decisions, and defending yourself and others without choosing the easy way. The mix of endurance and ethics is unusual. It's why people whisper your name, check themselves around you, and share your narrative, even among those who don't like you. In the end, the streets value survival without corruption because it demonstrates a fact that everyone recognizes but few can live with. Bending the rules does not equate to strength. It's about standing firm when everyone else expects you to give up. Your survival is more than simply evidence that you made it. It's confirmation that you did it correctly. That type of survival cannot be replicated, duplicated, or purchased. That's why your name sounds different. A number. They assumed seclusion would break you. It created you. When the streets turned their backs on you, they assumed it was the last blow. They anticipated that seclusion would weaken you, silence you, or make you desperate enough to succumb to their will. They felt that shutting you off from friends, support, and visibility would cause you to disintegrate. Instead, it became the reverse. Isolation did not break you. It created you. It required you to depend on your own power, hone your intuition, and fine-tune your approach in the absence of distractions or fake friends. You discovered who and what really mattered, and you matured in ways they never expected. Exile became your instructor in the silence of being alone. You explored your own limitations and found new powers. Every problem that arose while you were isolated was an opportunity to improve your resilience, manage your emotions, and acquire a sense of patience and accuracy that others lacked. People anticipated you to weaken, but instead you became sharper, more calculating, and harder to control. Every effort to control or frighten you failed, and each failure contributed to your rising notoriety. By the time you returned to the locations that had previously rejected you, you were a new force. People who had previously ignored you suddenly had to deal with someone who was unconvinced by their normal techniques. Their techniques were no longer effective since you had created protections that they hadn't anticipated. Isolation taught you that true strength is found in self-reliance and clarity, and it gave you unrivaled confidence. There is a calm irony to all of this. The same individuals who thought they were directing your destiny by leaving you unintentionally produced the person they dreaded. Their effort to eliminate your influence has merely increased it. Rather than being vulnerable, you are untouchable in ways they cannot control, and they are compelled to accept the truth that their own actions helped you. Isolation taught you more than just endurance. It gave you power over your own story. The streets that attempted to obliterate your existence have now preserved it as a lesson. It is their error to underestimate you, and living alone is your weapon. What they intended to be your undoing became the forge that formed someone who could not be bent, silenced, or controlled. That is why your return has not gone unnoticed. It is feared, respected, and unavoidable. A number. Your reputation outlasted their rumors. Rumors only function when individuals don't have a method to verify the facts. They spread because uncertainty amplifies noise. However, reality eventually catches up, and your reality caught up quickly. Your acts, perseverance, and constancy grew louder than any tale that anybody attempted to tell about you. Every falsehood, gossip, and effort to smear your reputation met with the indisputable truths of how you lived. People who had heard stories got the chance to see you in action, and when they did, the accounts contradicted the falsehoods, couldn't stand being weighed against your truth. Your record becomes your most compelling case. People who had before doubted you and had listened to the chatter with interest or animosity began to compare the allegations to what they had observed. Your actions, perseverance, and demeanor did more than just counter the falsehoods. They destroyed them. While others were conversing, people on the streets started seeing patterns. You were acting when others buckled under pressure. You stood steady when others bent to get an advantage. You held your ground. That contrast boosted your reputation quicker than any rumor ever could. The irony is that those who attempted to defame you unintentionally boosted your reputation. Every rumor was a test of whether your truth could withstand invented assaults, and each test you passed contributed to your fame. People began to realize that the tales were hollow and that what really mattered was the person in front of them. Reality trumped hearsay because you lived it totally and without reservation. Lies only look convincing when there is no proof of integrity to compare them against. And you provided proof to everyone. Your name took on its own weight as time passed. Rumors lost steam, and your life became the focal point. People stopped making noise because it was no longer important. Your presence, reputation, and deeds had already changed the narrative. The streets value someone whose honesty can outperform falsehoods. They understand that gossip has limitations. However, genuineness doesn't. You did not need to yell, publish, or exaggerate. Your life shouted louder than any rumors. That is why your reputation will always withstand the noise. A number. You become a symbol without trying. You didn't set out to become a symbol, and that is precisely why you become one. Symbols are not created via speeches, social media postings, or self-promotion. They are formed through experience, perseverance, and the type of constancy that most individuals cannot sustain. You overcame trials that would have shattered anybody else. And in doing so, you demonstrated that strength is not about violence or flash. It's about being strong when the world expects you to break that endurance day after day. Made your name more than simply a label. The streets know you for what you represent, not because you promoted it. You become a live example of someone who refuses to give up under pressure, who maintains integrity when shortcuts are everywhere, who defends those who are unable to protect themselves. Your deeds have weight. Your reputation teaches lessons without you having to explain yourself. People speak about you not because of hype, but because your very existence conveys a standard that others cannot ignore. Being a symbol without trying exudes an irrepressible intensity. It implies that your life has a tale that cannot be altered, created, or suppressed. People see you and understand, on some level, what it means to persevere with dignity, confront treachery amid difficulty, and emerge victorious. That narrative becomes a synonym for survival, honesty, and safety. Your name represents more than simply you. It signifies everything you've been through and the beliefs you uphold. Whether you love it or detest it, the streets cannot erase it. You have transformed. You are no longer merely a face in the throng. You are simultaneously a reference point, a benchmark, and a warning. People evaluate themselves in terms of questions and choices, and even people who disagree with you must account for your impact. This is the silent power of becoming a symbol. It exists whether you seek it or not, and it becomes stronger as you overcome problems. In the end, your importance is not based on praise or acknowledgement. It is based on the obvious fact of who you are. That's why your name sounds different today. It is no longer just a name. It represents perseverance, strength, and unshakable presence. The streets will remember it long after the commotion has subsided. Respect is not given easily, and it is surely not rewarded with hollow words or fake bluster. They celebrate perseverance, honesty, and an unwavering presence that cannot be faked by refusing to collapse under pressure. By the way, your fact outperformed every rumor. To how your perseverance transformed isolation into strength. Every action etched your name into the minds of those who attempted to ignore or delete you. You become a guardian by default, a symbol without seeking it, and a standard for authenticity that even your adversaries recognize behind closed doors. Your path demonstrates something that few can claim. Survival is more than simply making it through. It's about getting through without losing yourself. People talk, lie, and plan, but your reality is louder than all of that. The streets know more than simply your name. They save it, pass it on, and compare others to it. Your reputation is not based on loudness or fear. It is founded on unshakable, indisputable evidence that you are someone who will stay steadfast no matter what the cost. This is the reality that you hear wherever you go. Power isn't about turmoil. It's all about control. Respect isn't about looks. It's about being consistent. Influence does not imply popularity. It's all about endurance. And you easily embody all of this. Those who questioned you attempted to isolate you, spread falsehoods about you, or are now witnesses to something they could never destroy. Every hardship, treachery, and gossip simply serve to strengthen your resolve. So the streets recognize you. They recognize the truth teller, the protector, and the one who refuses to give up. And whether they love, loathe, or fear you, your legacy has already established. You are untouchable in ways that extend beyond titles, acclaim, and recognition. Your tale is a survival plan, a tutorial for perseverance, and an indelible emblem of authenticity. If you found this message to be meaningful, please subscribe so that you never miss out on the truth. The streets already know. If this video has a strong impact, please like it. Comment below with your ideas or experiences, and please share with anybody who needs to hear them. Your sponsorship helps share these genuine and censored ideas and keeps the message alive for everyone who refuses to give up. Don't simply watch. Be a part of this movement. God bless you.